to the second talk in the webinar series, Bridging the Manufacturing Skills Gaps in Rural America, hosted by the North Central Regional Center for Rural Development in collaboration with the Purdue Center for Regional Development. The goal of this series is to explore innovative solutions geared to enhancing manufacturing skills development in rural and remote communities across the U.S. My name is Carolyn Hatch, and I am delighted to introduce our speaker today, Brent Wheel from the Manufacturing Institute. In this era of reshoring, a challenge among many manufacturing companies located in rural areas is their ability to grow a strong talent base and to compete nationally for skilled workers. So in today's talk, Brent is going to discuss how industry-recognized certifications can play a role to foster industrial skills development in smaller communities. Brent is Senior VP at the Manufacturing Institute, where he leads industry engagements and partnerships to help workers and students achieve these types of certifications. So Brent, thanks very much for being here, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, and delighted to have this conversation that I know is really critical to so many of you in growing communities and building the right partnerships to look toward the future of manufacturing with an eye on rural America, where so many of the things that we see nationally really, that becomes really a microcosm of what we see nationally and also presents some unique challenges as well in addressing that need for a skilled workforce and really matching up talent with where we see growth opportunities for manufacturing careers. So I'm delighted to be here. I appreciate that introduction. The only thing I would add to that is that the Manufacturing Institute is a nonprofit affiliate of the National Association of Manufacturers. So we really represent manufacturers. The NAM is a policy organization. We, as a nonprofit affiliate, focus on how we help NAM members, which is more than 12,000 manufacturers across the country, and then more than 100,000 manufacturers that are reached through affiliates, through affiliate organizations, state organizations around the country, and really how we take those big policy directions and really support manufacturers in their bread and butter issues. And chief among them, actually, one of their top 4 issues is a skilled workforce. So we recognize that many of you are probably going to find that one of your toughest challenges is getting your manufacturers and getting companies really to buy in and fully engage. And we'll go through some of the reasons why that can be a challenge. We really represent industry and really support manufacturers, both as an advocate on manufacturers in communities and working with partners such as those of you on this webinar, as well as to take as well as to educate manufacturers on how they can control their own workforce issues. And we really stress that partnership is the way to go to make sustaining and lasting partnerships that are going to matter for manufacturers. So with that, we'll begin. I'll also say that I do have prepared slides, obviously, but we'll be watching the chat, and if things come through that are important to, that match what we're doing right now, then by all means, I'd love to take a look at what those are, and we can stop and answer some of those things. But also, we'll be prepared to go through and take some comments at the end. So manufacturing, first off, manufacturers contribute $2.2 trillion to the economy. It has the largest multiplier effect of any industry in the United States. It supports 17.4 million jobs in the United States. And of course, the vast bulk of R&D in the country and private sector R&D. And manufacturing as its own sector would be the 8th largest economy in the world. So we know how important it is, and we know it's doubly important often in rural areas. Some of the things that are impacting global competitiveness have some special resonance for rural America as well. So when we look at what is really driving what we recognize as a resurgence of manufacturing in the United States, we see that some of the things that are critically important as global manufacturing looks to where the best competitive advantage is to locate. Some of those key ones are labor cost, demand, talent, are all areas that are kind of in the fulcrum of that chart that you see there. There's not much that can be done about writ large with us on this call. We can't really impact the regulatory environment in the United States. We can take advantage, however, of the fact that transportation and energy often can be strong support for manufacturing in some of the areas that exist there. So these are some of the critical areas that make or break a region in determining that. And what we have found is that the availability of talent overall is a huge importance to manufacturers in location and strategies. There are some other things that are impacting this. I'm not going to go through all of those, but I will say that that the change in the price of of oil and gas has been a huge impact in the upsurge in manufacturing that we've seen locally. Talent is critical to the talent is critical to where we can best support manufacturing in communities. And labor costs do mean a lot too, and we can look a little bit at what that means for those of you on the call in terms of how we really balance the best mix of manufacturing in your communities. On top of everything else, what we have seen is that it's probably no surprise to many of you that that overall manufacturing employment has really taken a beating, especially in the 10 years leading up to the last couple of years when we've seen a resurgence. That had to do with overall demand factors. It had to do with offshoring, but it also had a great deal to do with changes in technology. And increasing automation means that overall we're producing more than ever before, but doing it more efficiently. And so there's not as many people doing these jobs. On the other hand, it's meant that where somebody could have had a career and done one job essentially, working on one machine and one process, the future of manufacturing and reality is today's manufacturing is not doesn't represent that at all. It's an automated the what used to be done in rote processes has now been automated, and individuals now are taking are working in uh, much more tech environment, one where their job increasingly becomes one of maintenance, of troubleshooting, that change the equation of what they need to know, change the equation of what manufacturers are looking for in that talent base. So all of those have an impact. Some things about manufacturing in rural areas that are a little bit different than what we see, or have some wrinkles that are different than what we see that would happen in an urban environment. First of all, manufacturing can be cyclical. In particular, there are some very cyclical factors that have an impact on rural America. We're seeing some whipsaw right now in oil and gas as the price goes up and down, and what that means when it's high, and what that means for oil and gas production, and when costs are low, what that means for energy intensive manufacturing. Right now, we're seeing a real surge in energy intensive manufacturing because of the low cost of fuel and the advantage that we have of the rest of the country. I think long term we see that there's been some real trends in oil and gas production also that are really kind of a perfect storm for growth of manufacturing. Food processing, another, of course, isn't quite so cyclical, but does see, but is definitely a mainstay in rural, often in rural economies. Of course, there's a cliche about company towns, and I actually earlier in my career in workforce development at the U.S. Department of Labor, when the Pilotex plant was closing down in rural North Carolina, and the impact that had on that community. So and I've seen others, Newton, Iowa, other places that have been I've really seen the impact of reliance on a particular on a particular manufacturer that has an impact. But the point of that story is not, we think, to say that we need to move away from manufacturing as a base. Rather, it's we need to be looking at more diverse skill set so that people can adjust to changes in the economy and changes in manufacturing. Those were both those opportunities, those that I mentioned were very low value add, low skill operations in both communities. Higher skill, higher demand, higher wage opportunities have come forward for people that have been able to adapt. I mentioned the balance that's there between wage rates and the need for labor availability. So the many rural areas are going to be attractive because of somewhat because of lower wage rates, and especially because of lower land costs, for example, and other costs of doing business. On the other hand, where's that labor going to come from then that's there, especially for some skilled workforce? Some of that is engineers, but also a lot of it is in that technical workforce that we're able to train up for. Pathways are essential to growing and retaining local talent. So we see that the more direct of a pathway we can demonstrate, and the more on and off ramps that people can take into manufacturing careers, then the more apt they are to build an earn and learn strategy within their community that would take them where they can start learning and where they can start in a high school environment, learning the right technical skills, leading to industry certifications, and then growing their career and growing in their training in ways that are pathways that they can follow. And the more that we can provide those right in their community, then the more people we're able to really maintain within that community and see that opportunity within manufacturing that often either they haven't had access to or just haven't really been able to see it, because I'll get into a minute about the image of manufacturing and the impact that has. The other thing that we see is, of course, it's not nothing new about nothing unique about rural areas. Really, many areas are competing for plant locations. Most important thing that really we can come out of this is that it's not necessarily a salvation when a plant comes in. First of all, we have to include that talent pipeline, and second, we need to have plans for really looking at the ecosystem of what that means in terms of suppliers that are there, in terms of what are training opportunities for people who might not be, for people who come in maybe following on after an initial subsidized training period that's been grant funded or the like. And so those are some things that all play into rural areas and how we can best support this. I'm going to go quickly through some of the things that we see nationally, and then I'm going to point to some particular strategies that we have seen working in rural areas to address those. So overall, our problem is we have misperceptions about manufacturing careers, and this is true all across the United States, that people don't understand and they associate manufacturing with this. And of course, today's manufacturing is completely different, but people never see that because they drive by that plant every day and they don't know anybody that works there and they've never been in there, or they have a misperception based on a number of factors about manufacturing, what kind of careers there are, and so this is a problem. And we know that 3 out of 10 parents would encourage their kids to go into manufacturing as a career. So we're losing people, and within a rural community, there's not too many people to lose, and so it just becomes that much more acute based on that scenario that's there. We actually did we have done public perception surveys. We are about to release one in this month that was done with Deloitte in a series. We can this number it remains true. 3 out of 10 parents would encourage their kids to go into manufacturing as a career. That has been consistent over as long as I'm aware of surveys being done, and it's certainly disheartening. On the other hand, there's a wrinkle in this. We have done surveys now and are about to release that really asked, okay, looked at, have you been exposed to manufacturing? And what we have found is that this number cuts in half. More than twice as many people would recommend manufacturing as a career when they've been exposed to manufacturing. So that's really what's behind our Dream It Do It campaign and other things that really address how we can expose people to manufacturing careers because there are great opportunities in manufacturing. It's very diverse, and the more people learn about it, we are confident the more they will take that as a career. The other thing that we know is that the skills shortage is very real. We're also about to release a study with Deloitte, the next in our skills gap report that is projecting that we're going to have over the next decade that we do not have a current pipeline to fill 2 million jobs across the country, and it's costing manufacturers. So when we ask manufacturers, what does it cost you in overtime when you don't have the right people for that position? It's costing 12% of their revenue in overtime. 8%, it increases their costs 8% in cycle time. 10% increase in downtime based on not having that right person in the job, and that totals up to 11% of their earnings. These are the kinds of figures that weigh into profit and loss statement, weigh into corporate decisions, but but right now companies have had a hard time really quantifying those costs. We're working on really helping pull out all of those return on investment measures so that people can see that impact there and support your efforts really in developing regional strategies around talent. And we also know through all of this that when we ask employees or ask manufacturers where they find their workers, as disheartening as it is, because we know of all the work and investment that's being made in community and technical schools, they're still telling us that most of their employees come from word of mouth, and tech schools and community colleges are at the bottom of the list. This is national. It's not reflective of any one particular area, but is overall a point of view in the trend. And so we've looked to how can we support different ways to help manufacturers find talent, and how can we really help regional economic development, workforce development, and education systems reach manufacturers in a way that really speaks to their needs, in a way that addresses in real terms cycle time, downtime, overtime, costs, and benefits that they can understand. And the way we have done that is really in a three-part solution that's focused on changing the image of manufacturing, really building the quality of the manufacturing workforce, and ensuring that there are the right policies in place to support not only manufacturing, but most especially manufacturing education that leads to a talent pipeline. So as we look to change the perception of manufacturing careers, stuck here, as we to change the manufacturing careers, the we see a real need to be able to look to the diversity of the workforce, look to youth as an especially important pipeline, look to military and women as key means to to build that manufacturing workforce. One thing that we've seen again around changing the perception of manufacturing careers, exposing people to manufacturing and doubling the number then that would consider manufacturing or would recommend manufacturing has been MFG Day, which will be October 2nd of this year. But many places have celebrated Manufacturing Month, Manufacturing Week, had chosen a different day in which to do this. The idea is really get manufacturers directly engaged, visiting schools, opening up for plant tours. There were virtual tours. There were more than 1,600 events, so it's on kind of a exponential growth path so far. And we see great opportunity to be able to carry that forward in an important way. And we encourage you to work with your manufacturers on that. The and there's lots of tools for manufacturers in being able to do that. Our Dream It Do It network is a manufacturing-led partnership with that aims to connect manufacturers directly with youth, parents, guidance counselors, decision makers that are really helping to move that needle about people in manufacturing careers. We're working on our 2014 statistics. This is what we saw in 2013. We're now in 33 states across the country, and a number of different opportunities for manufacturers to engage. And some of those have really proven their worth in rural areas. These are just a few of them. Nebraska is one of the strongest Dream It Do It networks we have. They have focused on a number of different things. They have an ambassadors program where companies have some of their, typically more dynamic or, kind of younger employees that are ambassadors that go to schools and speak to schools, mentor people, have interns and the like within Nebraska, and that's been has proven to be very, very successful. In Nebraska, there's also a very significant partnership with the Nebraska Cornhuskers, which is, I'm not sure if anybody's on from Nebraska, but is an institution, of course, in Nebraska, and so they have social media through the Cornhuskers. They're at every game talking about manufacturing. And interestingly, in Nebraska, where efforts really began with Dream It Do It, led by some key companies there in economic development and workforce development, that coalition ended up really then supporting a skills initiative that really focused on community colleges, and that led to a grant through the federal TACT project for a $15 million grant to support manufacturing education at the statewide through the community colleges there. And then 3 of our newest Dream It Do It sites are in decidedly rural areas in Maine, in North Georgia, which has really been focused on a strong core of manufacturers working directly with the school system. And I think our newest yet is in an area of rural Idaho where paper manufacturing is really central to that, and driven by economic development there to really seeing the connection of manufacturers with the education system as part and parcel of their economic growth strategies. So some models for how that can work. Some other things that we've done to address the image of manufacturing. We have a program for veterans into manufacturing careers called Get Skills to Work. It was launched by big companies, but includes now a coalition of more than 500 big and small companies and medium-sized companies that are prioritizing veterans in their hiring, and most crucially, are connecting veterans to the right training programs at community colleges to get up the skills they need in 11 core manufacturing occupations into manufacturing careers. And this is something that's growing, and we've been able to build regional partnerships focused on that community college connection, where we can really help veterans find direct into companies that are valuing their manufacturing skills based on their time in the military, and then the quick quick training up to manufacturing standards, leading to industry certification. So we can have all the image, we can change the image all we want. And sometimes that can be a tough sell in an environment where plant downsizings have been in the news, or or in people's memories, or in their parents' memories. What we have found the next step is to focus very deeply in how we are in addressing the quality of the manufacturing education. And our focus has been on on our skills certification system, which is really focused on how we ensure that the outcome of career and technical education is an industry standard that manufacturers that line up to the needs of manufacturers directly. And we have identified then 14 industry certification partners, that 15 industry certification partners that have certifications that have national standards and assessments that manufacturers can get behind, led by manufacturers, supported by data behind them, that these line up to the core competencies needed in manufacturing. And then our efforts with manufacturers has been educating them on what these means, why you can trust them, why you should be supporting industry certifications as a key element of those partnerships that you've been making with community colleges and technical schools. And I certainly welcome if people wanted to put in the chat if of any of these certifications that you're aware of in your communities or with your partners or in your schools that have been aligning to these standards. Ones that we see of greatest national impact right now are ACT and their National Career Readiness Certificate, the Manufacturing Skills Standards Council, and its certified production technician certification for cross-cutting technical skills, as well as certified logistics associate and technician certifications in logistics, the American Welding Society for welding, the National Institute for Metalworking Skills for machining are the ones that we've seen with the greatest national impact. We see increasing interest in ASQ and their lean certification, in PMMI and their mechatronics certifications. And so so our work with community colleges has really been how you can really align your programs so that they're earning these industry certifications as they're going through programs. And I have some examples that have been making a difference in rural areas in a minute on these. The core thought behind this is when we talk to manufacturers, when you want to know the skills that people have in these key areas, and then some are surprised that already exists in the National Career Readiness Certificate or work keys that they can ask for and be able to see that they meet those standards that are there. And I take it a step further with many manufacturers. Say, do you need these? And we show the standards, all these standards for safety, for quality practice and measurement, for manufacturing processes, for production. Is that something that you need? And they invariably say, well, yeah, this actually matches up with our needs. There's some things we would supplement with that, but if we saw an applicant with those demonstrated skills, we'd jump on them. And the answer to that is, well, the community college actually is training people to the Certified Production Technician certification, the CPT, that has those 4 assessments there. So you need to get more involved and make sure that the school is offering that. You need to make sure that you're giving some preference to that, and so that's how we sell it with manufacturers about what they should be asking for within a school environment. Another way we point to manufacturers, this was actually brought to us by one of the medium-sized company that was small company really that we work with. This is fabrication. Brought this to us and said this person came to us referred by a community college, had gone through a boot camp in welding. They got that certificate for completing the boot camp, but I guarantee you they didn't get an AWS certification because because they failed this test. And if they had their AWS certification, we would have known that they matched up to what our needs were. And actually, it's not just small companies that have said that. Caterpillar in Illinois has said that they are able to cut off and the order of weeks of training for individuals that come with that AWS certification that's judged by an independent welding inspector. And we've had companies that have come to us and said that the certified production technician and NIMS certification cut. I had a major oil and gas company tell me it cut 30 days off of their recruiting time and 30 days off of their on-the-job training time for having that as part of their training. So what we ask educators and community leaders to do is to work to align manufacturing programs with those industry-based standards and certifications to support faculty development and get instructors really into those certifications. And critically in economic development is rally employers with manufacturing associations and workforce and economic development behind a skilled workforce agenda where they're valuing that industry certification as a part of that, as a critical element of credit programs in manufacturing. Some things that make a difference for rural America in this. First of all, these are one of the things that we see over and over again is that manufacturers don't know what the content of training is. People present with a college certificate of some kind. They don't know what that means. So having a national standard can make all the difference in the world. And it is worth knowing that, especially at the, well, really throughout the skills certification system, that there's a number of online and blended learning environments that can make a difference in rural areas. The MSSC, for example, has complete online if that's something that people want to take. Typically, we see it as a blended approach that can make sense. We've seen mobile training labs, including mobile fab labs, including welding, including machining, that have proven in some cases with federal grant dollars, for example, to demonstrate to have an ability to go to where students are when there's not enough students in any one place to have have that. Or welding inspectors are hard to come by. They're expensive often. And every school doesn't need to have a certified welding inspector. However, worked across a whole region, then that was done in Iowa, for example, where they've designated certain community colleges to be the welding testing centers for certified welding tests that work regionally. So not every school has to have those things, and those are some things that can make this more a more efficient, saleable approach to this. So how do these things then tie together in a rural workforce? That are some things that that you can take away and really consider how to best build within your regions. I'm going to point to several that are either focused on rural areas or have certainly incorporated in a statewide effort in ways that have had real resonance in rural areas. Ivy Tech in Indiana, statewide system in Indiana, has made a priority of connecting its programs by way of industry certification. And that includes very deep embedding of the certified production technician certification. It was started in the workforce side, so on the career college, on the corporate college side of non-credit training in 2006. It's being embedded now. It then has quickly become embedded over time in the credit programs with an advanced manufacturing degree. And it is now really the core of training for both credit and non-credit sides of the house. What that means is that a student can go through a short-term training program leading to the certified production technician. So starting with the National Career Readiness Certificate at silver level, earning their CPT in cross-cutting technical skills. And there are companies in many regions of the state that have prioritized those students as getting priority for internships and hires. And so that's a possibility. It's also readily has a block transfer to articulation to the credit side where people can continue on toward an associate's degree. And many people end up doing both. They complete that short-term training in the corporate college. They earn their certified production technician certification. They then go work for a company that has an agreement, really, that they're going to prioritize that certified production technician in their hiring. And then they continue on as they are working and continue on in a part-time fashion at Ivy Tech toward their associate degree in advanced manufacturing. And the company's many will use the company's tuition reimbursement in order to be able to do that. This model now has been adopted, and so on top of that certified production technician then come certifications in NIMS for machining and CNC machining and welding with the AWS. Logistics is a certified logistics technician. Quality in Lean and Six Sigma through ASQ. So it really ties it together, and we have seen that in Columbus, Indiana, where Cummins has made the certified production technician core to its recruitment process, or in areas such as Lafayette, where where there's a group of 40 companies that have joined a consortium. That consortium has not only the Advanced Manufacturing Consortium has not only decided to prioritize this model of short-term training into tracks that they need, but they have put in not only that they are prioritizing that and hiring people out of it, but they have an agreement that the students are going through that and through a variety of funding streams. There's no cost to the student to complete that CPT program. What's unique in that region is that the companies in this coalition know that after 90 days of successful retention, that they will be invoiced for half the cost of that training, so roughly $1,200. And companies have ended up doing that because because there's such a demand for workers there with the right skills, and and that gets to some of that cost that I mentioned earlier of cycle time, downtime, overtime, but also they were looking at their heavy use of staffing agencies, and this was a great means to be able to avoid that. And so this has been successful in that region and has been moving to other regions of the state that are it may not be rural Montana, but it's certainly not Indianapolis or Chicago either, that have been making that kind of difference. And as I noted, that their focus to what really makes it work is that they have a pull system where companies have been able to recognize those certifications and what they mean. And that took a lot of hard work, but they did it by really focusing in on the standards, what they meant, following through, and delivering that pipeline of talent that was needed. I'll also say that there are 12 school districts in Indiana that are teaching in their career and technical programs that do assess to the certified production technician as part of that high school program and the safety and quality parts of that high school that articulate into Ivy Tech as well. So that's been a very successful model. Within South Central Community College in Mankato, Minnesota, they had a great need for machine operators. Those companies wanted to make sure there was a pathway that would allow people to enter in now with the right kinds of skills, but also recognize that we need people with higher level skills as well. And so they piloted our Right Skills Now model for machining that does focus on really a fast track for employment and just in track time talent while giving people that flexible approach to manufacturing. And that ties together the National Career Readiness Certificate that requires at a silver level with a credit-bearing program, a 16-week program in NIMS, leading to 4 NIMS certifications that they are taking along the way in CNC really the bare minimum of what companies said they needed for CNC operation, at which time they come out with, after just 16 weeks, they've earned those 4 NIMS certifications and their NCRC. They've also earned credits, college credit. And they then have a paid internship, 8-week paid internship that earns credit as well. And that's model really then ties together everything that we know can be effective for students. It gets them a quick pathway into a job because companies desperately needed those people that had the right kind of CNC operation skills. They gave them, it gives them college credit so students can go back and complete an associate's degree, and or they can do both. And what has happened is many people have in fact done both of those things. They've gone to work and using tuition reimbursement continued on at South Central. And what we have found is that not only is this an effective means for companies to be able to access workers, but it's been an effective recruitment tool. And credit programs that had been really withering on the vine there in Minnesota ended up becoming full classes, and they had to add more tracks even because of that direct connection that we continue to see between the classroom learning and a job tied to industry certifications. Another example that I'm going to really speak to is really statewide within Kansas about how they've approached career and technical education and put that focus on industry certifications. And I have a few different schematics of how this has worked. So the Kansas system is really focused on uh, the successful completion being that industry credentials, such as NIMS, such as AWS, and tying that together in credit programs then, and they also, and putting and providing FTE equivalent dollars to programs that are delivering those credentials and that align in certificate programs and degree programs that that tie again together credit and industry certifications in a way that provide seamless pathways for students. What we have found is that as this has gone along, the number of high school participants earning college credit has expanded exponentially. The number of industry credentials earned has doubled in the last year, and so the manufacturers really are seeing that difference in qualified students coming through. Some of this included that both at the high school level, they're getting a financial incentive for delivering students with those industry certifications, and also giving that incentive to colleges for students that are taking that technical education, and actually that students can take that at community colleges then in the state at no cost to them. And just as in Ivy Tech, there's been this pull model that really has focused in on how industry can get most engaged. And that champions then agree to hire students that have, or prioritize students with those industry certifications that are there. And tying it all together has been really a focus in on how companies, economic development, and education all work into the same place, and all with the focus on developing advanced pathways that start with the core levels of the competencies required for manufacturers and building up into technical competencies, all tied to industry certification. And so here's where we've come in less than 5 years. And finally, there's some great policies that can make a difference. And some of these are the same states that have had these great outcomes. So in Indiana, there's been tax credits support for post-secondary for certification as an outcome of education, really looking at credentials as to expand the definition of completion. In Kansas, with the incentive program for money to school districts for high school graduates earning those industry certifications. North Carolina, that has prioritized industry certifications and giving opportunity for industry recognized third-party credentials as a completion have all made a difference. And that's so Carolyn, want to check in if we've had any chat, or if we can open it up for some chat from our audience about opportunities they see or questions they have about the industry certification, about how we can best support rural development, and how industry certification, our efforts can tie in with that.
Thanks so much, Brent. That was fascinating. You've touched on so many important issues. So audience members, please speak up. I see Myra Wilson, who is going to be speaking on February 28th as part of this series. Brent, can you see these questions?
I actually can. So
Okay,
Ohio
terrific.
has been, indeed, I see it absolutely. So our Ohio has been growing statewide actually in its activities. We have seen the one of our initial schools, and this is not necessarily rural, but one of our initial schools with Lorain County Community College in Northeast Ohio, and there's been a very strong partnership spearheaded by Magnet in Northeast Ohio, the MEP, the community college system, and manufacturers around really tying in focus on the National Career Readiness Certificate, focus and work keys, focus on certifications such as NIMS and welding and AWS welding certifications. Swagelok is a major company that has adopted the Right Skills Now model for machining. But we've seen this growing, so there have been very strong Dream It Do It there in Northeast Ohio. But equally in Southern Ohio, the Cincinnati region has one of the strongest support systems for the National Career Readiness Certificate and the Certified Production Technician certification as well. And Dream It Do It is in Southern Ohio, in Dayton, and in Cincinnati region as well. And we're seeing some strong movement from Columbus in some of the areas that we mentioned around policy that I think are going to make a big difference that way as well. Question relating to badges. We have had experience with badges. I think that badges is one of those things. You know what they say about Brazil is the country of Brazil is the country of the future and always will be. Sometimes I feel that way about badges, but we're seeing some. I am seeing some interesting activity with badges that I think may be of interest. So. We have worked with badges in a couple of ways. We partnered with Project Lead the Way and Skills USA and developed a youth badge that focused on completion of certain measures. For Project Lead the Way, it was completion of their manufacturing related course. And for Skills USA, it was participation in state or national competition in particular manufacturing fields. And so we developed that badge. We also have developed badges for veterans that focused on their military occupation and really recognizing that crosswalk to manufacturing occupations. So I think that badges themselves have great value. It has been so to Scott's follow-up question. Some of the biggest barrier that I've seen in badges has been the developing the critical mass. Really, I have seen where large-scale badging has been done, but that has typically been in low touch, low value means that probably don't really speak to employers' needs. And then we've had some things where we did pilots that were small scale, were deep engaged, had real verification to them, but haven't had enough critical mass that I can tell employers look for people with that badge. I am aware of some regions of the country, such as Idaho, for example, that is focusing in on using particular badges as a means to support alignment of systems, uh, to support articulation for from K-12 into 2-year into 4-year, for example. And I think those might prove to be really valuable ones that are there. But verification, we've been stuck on a lot of badges, has been stuck in technology questions that you know that you know I'm a workforce and skills guy. I'm not so much a technology guy, and so I think many people are in that category of as the platforms get hammered out, it's hard to it's hard to do both the back engine platform work and work and really work with education with educators and manufacturers on what the content of that badge is and have those meet at the same time has proven to be difficult. But I'd certainly welcome thoughts on or hear, would be happy to follow up and learn more about where you're using badges in ways that accomplish some of these goals too, because the the their reason for being and what they purport to accomplish are things that we would be fully supportive of, and I see great value in.
Do we have any more questions? Actually, that was precisely my question about the utility of badges. But to sort of expand on that, Brent, how can we leverage technology to address some of these issues in rural areas? And as we know, learning in manufacturing, it's not always about sitting in a classroom. It's very much dependent on that informal learning at work, learning within a team environment, that kind of thing. So, how can we use technology to address some of these issues?
Well, it's an excellent point. Certainly, we see there's a we are have seen there's a lot of curriculum that's coming out of TACT grants, for example. There's a lot of online tools. I don't know that they're I think that one of the things that we're looking to accomplish is do a better cataloging of those, get things that are in public domain out there for people to be able to adapt and use because I mean I think the world of education is changing in every respect, but in rural America especially, we have to be taking advantage of technology to be able to be able to be able to offer world class world class education to people no matter where they are. And so we're looking to build that bridge for how those things can best be used. I'm aware of a number of them that have been doing so, leading to core MSSC certifications, for example. Obviously, simulation I think can be a starting point, but typically they need to be supplemented with some blended learning to make the most value. We have seen where uh, that this can make a difference for people in the active duty, for example, military, because they have opportunity to take coursework while they're in their transition phase that will give them an opportunity to move to where a job is and to be able to have the training that goes with it. And we helped some of our partners, such as MSSC and NIMS, negotiate with the military in really offering that instruction for people while they're on active duty. So there are hundreds of people right now that are coming out in this with MSSC, it was around the certified logistics technician. Of course, logistics is an incredibly important part of the military, but it's also very important to manufacturing and can be very important to some manufacturing in rural areas where transportation and warehousing and the like are really important features of the economy there. And so they're coming out, and we are working with them on really helping manufacturers all across the country access those candidates before they transition out with what they're learning. I do think a badge can be an important part of that. I really am watching what some states and regions and economic development areas are doing around badges to help to solve that. I think it's both a instructional aid, and that's where it's probably more commonly been used, but it's also uh, it can lower the barriers of distance and lower the barriers of information that can put everybody on a level playing field in terms of accessing the best talent.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Well, it might be a good opportunity just to remind, excuse me, to remind folks that we have another presentation in a couple of weeks. Please join us on February the 12th for the final presentation by Myra Wilson and Frank Gibson. Thanks, Rosa, for bringing that in. And Myra and Frank are going to be talking about local strategies in Ohio, so please tune in. I hope everyone has had a chance to do the survey that Rosa brought in there. And any more Q&A here? Oh, Brent, I would like to thank you for this fascinating discussion today and for your time. It's been really, really great.
Well, thank you very much, and